Hey everybody, it's your boy Nathan Crash, and welcome to Nathan Crash Gets Bodied by the Internet's favorite show. For those of you who don't know, how this series works is I read a story, preferably a scary story from like Reddit or a creepypasta website or something like that, and I give it my thoughts, and then I leave it a 1 through 10 rating. And that's basically the gist of it. You're generally encouraged to do the same. All you gotta do to play the internet's favorite game is like, comment, and subscribe. Or you could just like and subscribe. That's basically it. And you just leave your feedback and your thoughts on the story down below. Another thing you can do for brownie points is you can subscribe to me or follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Nathan_Crash. That's going to be it for right now. I'm going to dive right into the story. This is by user I Used to Eat People. And it was uploaded about 6 hours ago. So we're going to dive right into this. The name of this story is, while working as a game tester, I found a disturbing video game that was never released. Let's dive right into this, boys and ghouls. I studied graphic design in college and learned a fair bit of coding on the side. The goal was to be a video game designer, but it turns out I'm not terribly artistic. A few years after college, and I did manage to get into the industry, only as a tester and not a designer. It was still a pretty solid position in the career field I loved, and the dream job of every geek like me. Not to mention it paid fairly well. The office I was at was pretty well furnished for maximum geekery. The testing floor was an ocean of disheveled cubicles, humming with flashing screens, childish taunting, and popping energy drinks. The break room was filled with classic gaming cabinets and stockpiled with junk food. The floor above us was development and design, and the floor above that was marketing and execs. The floor below us was the ground floor, composed of a reception office and security. You'd be surprised at how seriously these guys took security. I've been told there was a gym somewhere too, but had no idea where. I was about 2 years into the job when I first heard that there was a basement floor, a place the designers referred to as Purgatory, and it was the only floor not accessible by elevator. Not a lot of testers knew about it, and getting any of the developers to share the details was like pulling teeth. They either feigned ignorance or told me it was above my pay grade. One even threatened to get me fired if I kept pushing it. It wasn't until late one night at the office, after drowning about half a bottle of rye with one of the designers, him way more than me, that I finally get someone to spill the proverbial beans. I think it also helped that he was about a week from retiring, so he didn't really care what happened. Purgatory was essentially a floor dedicated to defunct title storage and disposal. Only a handful of designers had ever been down there, and are reportedly bound through contract to keep quiet about it. There are apparently hundreds of obscure projects that have been vetoed from production for one reason or another. The ones that the company decided to destroy are disassembled and liquidated, though they are apparently quite picky on what gets scrapped. The execs opt to keep most of the discontinued titles for reasons unknown. Perhaps to revisit them in the future or whatever. It took a bit more begging and a lot more alcohol to convince him to sneak me down there. He luckily knew the night security manager pretty well, who was a big fan of supplementary income. 10 minutes later, and we were on our way down, albeit $250 lighter. The stairs led into a wide, cavernous warehouse that looked like the floor of a wholesale club. Only instead of large quantities of stuff for discount prices, it was lined all the way down with steel cages, more than I could count. They were about 8 feet tall and as wide as a bookshelf, lined with row upon row of different gaming cartridges and discs. Each cage had an electronic lock that required a different PIN code to open. I had to cough up another $200 to get security to open one, which he did while assertively telling me not to touch anything. I was giggling like a little kid at the excitement of seeing some of the missing links of the gaming world. The cage he opened was for the TurboGrafx 16, pure gem from the console generation. I had one of them growing up and knew every title like the back of my hand, so I thought. First few cartridges I perused had white mailing stickers in the place of game art, each with a collective series of numbers and letters. A few had mock titles and dates scribbled below the serials. Sci-fi platformania shoot 'em 1988 or Race Till You Die 1986. It wasn't until the third or fourth row that one cartridge distinctly caught my eye. Your Useless Dog Boy Squeal, 1997. Keep in mind that the TurboGrafx 16 had been well phased out by 1997, which means someone had designed this title purely for their own agenda. The guard was starting to get antsy now, so we locked the cage back up and headed upstairs. The next day I returned to the office at night and gave the same guard $500 for another peek. I told you, my job paid well. You said it paid fairly well. I don't know about like all that. Like now he's I think he's kind of like pulling my leg. Also, sorry about that. Here, we'll fix that. Fix it in post, as they say. $500 to... He led me downstairs and I asked to see the same cage. I stepped through the doors and immediately went back to Your Useless Dog Boy Squeal, 1997. It took about 2 minutes for him to look away at the static of his radio, and I made my move. Swapping the game out with a cartridge from my pocket I had doctored to look just like it. He was none the wiser. We headed back upstairs and I jumped in my car and tore down the street like a maniac. I begun live streaming my recreational gaming sessions about 6 months prior, gathering a modest 300 followers or so. This guy's doing way better than me on both Twitch and on YouTube. This guy's a badass. I should have hit this dude up. I blasted out a social media message while driving about a special event stream I would be hosting that night, revealing something no other gamer has seen. This was a terrible idea. Most of my followers were watching as I plugged in the mysterious cartridge and booted it up. The game started on a black screen, with big ballooned letters that said, "Press start to begin purification." I pressed the button, and the game emitted a noise that resembled a crying child. The game was in the first-person perspective and played like one of those old point-and-click adventures. It started in an average-looking home with an inventory bar at the bottom of the screen and a numerical score bar at the top left. It was kind of plain in design, but rendered in full color and had crisp sound effects. You could interact with the environment by moving your cursor over items and entering a different room. Or entering a different room. I heard that same child crying sound from the title screen about a minute into me exploring the kitchen. Only this time it was softer and sounded muffled, like it came from a different room. One of my followers said they heard it as well. I began clicking any discernible item I could see in each room I entered. The crying sound popping up every minute or so. I collected a knife, an umbrella, a rope, a bottle, a hammer, a box of matches, and a bottle of salicylic acid. I don't know, I think I read that wrong. I'm not sure. I'm sure there was more items to find, but that sporadic crying sound had piqued my interest. I decided to pinpoint where it was coming from, which eventually led me to the basement door. Clicking on the door cued a grainy cinematic of my character's feet descending each step with a loud thud. All the while, the muffled crying sound growing louder and clearer from the darkness at the bottom. When the sequence ended, I was standing in the basement and staring at something or someone that was chained to a wall, huddled and whimpering in the corner. Our viewers exploded to comments in horror as we came to the collective realization that it was a young boy. When I scrolled my cursor over the child, the word "squeal" appeared over his head. Some of my followers immediately logged off my stream, while others prompted me to interact with him. Clicking the boy only made the crying louder for a moment. I tried to give him the hammer to break the chains, but by pressing the item against him created the sickening sound of bone crunching, followed by the boy shrieking. I nearly puked when I noticed the score bar increased by 100 points. This was a simulation of abusing and torturing a child. I panicked and killed the stream, tearing the cartridge from my game system and hurling it across the room. I debated calling the police, but knew they would find out I stole the game, and I didn't want to lose my job or end up in jail. It is just a game, after all. Maybe it would be best if I just swapped it back and forgot this whole thing ever happened. Next day at work, security was waiting for me in the lobby. Someone had sent the footage of the live stream to the company. I was forced to hand over the game and lost my job, threatened with a lawsuit for violating company policies and theft. The designer told me that the designer told that told me about Purgatory was implicated as well and lost his entire pension. The security guard was also fired and threatened with legal action. That office relocated soon after, as did the entire collection of God knows what other defunct games. I don't know what would prompt the company to keep something so terrible as Your Useless Dog Boy Squeal 1997, but they obviously didn't want anyone knowing about it. What's worse is that I distinctly remember seeing on the shelf next to that game a cartridge titled Return to Squeal 2019. And that, my friends, is the curious tale of, well, while working as a game tester, I found a disturbing video game that was never released. I think that's, as far as like, look, as far as disturbing video game stories, like, you know, like video game creepypastas, this one's not as fucking bad as like a lot. This is not like Sonic EXE or Ben Drowned. Like those are legit, like they're cringe, you know. And like this is at least as close to like, I don't know. This is as close to like feasible as like you can kind of get, you know. Like this is like, for a no sleep story, this is pretty good. In terms of no sleep stories, this one's pretty sweet, because I generally tend to like the Let's Not Meet subreddit a lot more. This isn't so bad. I actually kind of enjoyed this story. I'm gonna give this one a 7. This was a solid, like, maybe 6.5. I think it's a 6.5 because I don't know. It didn't blow my pants off, but it was a fun story. It was a decent story. It wasn't a bad one. Like, I was interested. I just thought, I don't know. I just thought this, I was pretty skeptical of this story, and this story managed to turn my opinion around, which is huge on it, of its own merit, you know. So I want to thank the author. I used to eat people. You're pretty good. You're pretty good. I hope I see more of your work, because I can't wait. Hope to cover you again on the channel, and be sure to check out his work on Reddit as well. I'll leave the story as I'm want to do now. I do it in the, you'll find in the description. You can find the rest of his work down there. Send him my love, because I enjoyed the story. What am I missing, guys? Honestly, it was a really cool story. I like the idea of like the fact that it's like this. It's on a like a, especially like the TurboGrafx 16. That's a pretty deep cut. Like, you know, like that's. I didn't even play the TurboGrafx. Like, I don't know anybody who owned a TurboGrafx 16. So that's pretty interesting. I just think it's nice that that's like a nice deep cut. So it feels like a little more authentic, and like it's like, oh, it's this homebrew game that's like awful, and like it kind of taps into like, well, kind of what I do is just like, you know, the whole streaming aspect. I feel like it's a pretty modern take on, you know, like the video game creepypasta. So I did enjoy it, and it wasn't absolute cancer. So thank you for that. I used to eat people, and I'm really excited to hear your guys' thoughts and feedback on the story as well. So, you know, leave your ratings down below. Give me your thoughts. Let's talk about this, because I want to know what. I really wish we could have seen what Race to Die was about, because that seems like a cool too. Too bad we didn't get to take a look at that. You know, maybe this guy will write more stories. I kind of like the way this dude writes creepypastas. They're interesting, and they're fun to read. If you have any stories or video games that you'd like to see me play, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below, or you can DM me or like tweet at me on Twitter at itsnathan_crash. Again, if you enjoy my content, be sure to like the video, comment on the video, and like, subscribe, and click the bell so you're notified whenever content similar to this comes out. And follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/nathan_crash, because that's honestly the most feasible way I see me being able to do this like really consistently, is, you know, it being my job. And I would really, I'm really trying to take the steps necessary to try to, you know, advance in this path, or this walk, like, you know, yeah, basically this career path, as cringy as that sounds. But that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I hope you have a wonderful night, day, whatever it is, wherever you are. Just have a good one, Be safe out there and try not to get bodied. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I love you guys. Thank you for all the support you've continued to show my channel and to show me. It's warmed my heart, and I'm couldn't be any more thankful for such a fantastic community. I love you guys. Take it easy. I'll see you later. Bye guys. I love you.